Welcome to David's Stories. Today, we follow Waldo Coleman, a teacher disrespected by his son at a lavish wedding who cancels a $30,000 honeymoon and reclaims his dignity. Subscribe and hit the bell for weekly videos uncovering truths and empowerment. Share your thoughts below. Let's start the story. I'm Walter Kane, a high school chemistry teacher, 56 years old with a modest $68,000 a year salary and a life built on equations cause and effect, balance, and consequence. For 23 years, I've taught teenagers how atoms bond and break, how reactions ripple through systems. But no equation prepared me for the betrayal that unfolded at my son's wedding, a night that would unravel secrets I'd buried and ignite a fire I didn't know I still carried. It was October 18th, 2024, and the Grand Ashton Hotel in uptown Charlotte glittered like a chandelier under the autumn moon. The ballroom, with its 28-foot ceilings and three crystal chandeliers, each costing $2.200 to rent, hummed with the kind of opulence that makes you feel small if you're not born into it. I stood at the edge of the crowd, my off-the-rack suit from Fiona's funeral 5 years ago, clinging to me like a ghost. My son Ethan was marrying Victoria Crawford, the daughter of Charlotte's real estate royalty. The Crawfords owned half the city's skyline, their name etched into glass towers and whispered in country clubs. To them, I was just the teacher, the outsider, the man who didn't belong. The wedding cost $85,000 or so, the Crawfords boasted to their 220 guests. They made sure every soul in that ballroom knew they'd paid for it all. The florists imported orchids, the string quartet's haunting melodies, the gold-foiled programs on 120-pound cranes electra paper. But they didn't know the truth, a secret I'd kept like a locked journal. I'd funded most of it, $60,000 from my late wife Fiona's life insurance, $14,800 for Ethan's platinum wedding band, $11,950 for the photographer's final balance, and $30,200 for a Maldives honeymoon first-class flights and a water villa at the Conrad Rangali. Over $116,000, nearly 2 years of my take-home pay poured into a day meant to honor love, but instead erased the woman who'd made it possible. Fiona, my wife, died on April 28, 2019. Breast cancer stage 4 after an 18-month battle that left her frail but never broken. She was a night shift nurse at Presbyterian Hospital for 20 years, her hands steady even when her body wasn't. She left behind an $85,000 life insurance policy, her signature in blue ink on the beneficiary form, smudged where her hand had rested. That money was meant for Ethan's future, a house stability, a foundation. Instead, he spent it on this wedding without a word to me, letting the Crawfords claim the glory. The ballroom buzzed with anticipation as guests sipped champagne and admired the Crawford family crest on the programs. I stood near a marble pillar, watching Ethan laugh with Victoria's father, Richard, a man whose handshake felt like a power play. Richard owned half of uptown Charlotte, his properties gleaming like trophies. His wife Diane presided over the junior league, her smile as polished as the Louboutin heels clicking across the marble floor. They moved through the room like royalty, and I was the peasant they tolerated. I wasn't always this invisible. There was a time decades ago when I wasn't just a teacher. In my 20s, I worked as a chemist for a shadowy research firm, decoding compounds that could alter minds or mask truths. I left that life when Fiona and I married, choosing stability over secrets. But the Crawfords didn't know that. To them, I was a footnote, a man in a $200 suit who taught kids about the periodic table. My name appeared in the wedding program, 8-point font, one line, Walter Kane. No mention of raising Ethan alone for 5 years of the summers I taught to pay his college tuition, or of Fiona, whose absence was a wound they refused to acknowledge. The first hint of something darker came 3 weeks before the wedding. I was at Emily's coffee shop on South Boulevard, meeting Pandora, Fiona's best friend of 30 years. Her eyes, sharp as ever, caught mine over a caramel latte. "Walter, have you seen this?" She slid the wedding program across the table, her finger tapping the Crawford family crest. Richard and Diane got a full paragraph. Richard Crawford, president and CEO of Crawford Properties. Diane Crawford, president of the Junior League of Charlotte. My name, barely a whisper. Pandora's voice was low, urgent. "This isn't about credit, Walter. It's about respect. They're erasing you." And Fiona. I shrugged, sipping my black coffee. "It's their day, Pandora. I don't need the spotlight." But her look, Fiona's look, the one that called out my tendency to let people walk over me, Stung. This is about more than spotlight, she said. There's something off about these people. Fiona would have seen it. I brushed it off and told myself it was wedding stress. But Pandora's words lingered a seed of doubt in a garden I tried to keep orderly. The rehearsal dinner the night before October 17th deepened that doubt. The private room at Blackstone Steakhouse was a study in excess burgundy wallpaper, a crystal chandelier, a $6 200 bill. The Crawfords proudly paid. Diane stood to give a 12-minute toast, her 3x5 note cards meticulously printed. She thanked everyone, the florist, the planner, Victoria's sorority sisters, even the caterer. Not once did she mention me. Not once did she mention Fiona. The room applauded. Ethan hugged her, calling her the best mother-in-law the guy could ask for. I sat at the end of the table, separated from the family, seating my water glass cold in my hand. Pandora caught my eye across the room, her head shaking slowly, a silent warning. After dinner, I pulled Ethan aside in the hallway, the hum of the ballroom fading behind us. "Your mom would have loved this," I said, keeping my voice light. He smiled, distracted, his eyes scanning the room. "Yeah, Dad, for sure." I hesitated, then added, "Diane forgot to mention me in her speech." Ethan's smile faltered. "Dad, don't take it personal. It's just wedding stuff." She was nervous, but I'd seen those note cards. Diane Crawford didn't get nervous. She didn't forget. She curated. That night, I went home to the house Fiona and I bought in 1997, a 3-bedroom with a paid-off mortgage and a laminate kitchen table scratched from Ethan's childhood art projects. I opened my laptop, pulled up an email from May 8, 2024. Subject: Kane Honeymoon Confirmation, VT882193. 8 Airways, Charlotte to the Maldives via Abu Dhabi. 2 first-class tickets, a water villa for 10 nights. Total $30, 280. I'd booked it secretly through Ashley, Victoria's best friend, the only Crawford ally who seemed uncomfortable with Diane's jabs about the teacher. The amount stared back at me, a number heavier than my annual take-home pay. The Crawfords thought Ethan paid for it. Ethan let them think that. I closed the laptop, the weight of the secret pressing against my chest. There was something else, something I hadn't told anyone, not even Pandora. In my car, tucked under the driver's seat, was a locked metal box, the kind you'd miss if you weren't looking. Inside were documents from my past life, patents, formulas, things I'd sworn never to revisit. And one more, Fiona's final letter written days before she died. Not the beneficiary form, but a note in her looping handwriting sealed in an envelope I hadn't opened since 2019. I didn't know why I kept it there, only that it felt like a talisman, a piece of her I wasn't ready to face. The morning of the wedding, I woke at 5:30, unable to sleep. I sat at that scratched kitchen table, the folder from my car open before me. Document 1, MetLife payout letter in her, $85,000. Fiona's signature smudged in blue. Document 2, bank transfer receipt, August 12, 2022, $60,000 to Ethan, memo line reading, "Mom's gift. Make her proud. Down payment fund." I'd given it to him for a house for stability. 3 months ago, I'd learned he'd spent it all. Venue upgrades, open bar, a live band. Threw a photo on Victoria's Instagram, captioned, "So blessed for our dream wedding." He hadn't told me. He hadn't told her where the money came from. Document 3, a receipt from Bailey's Fine Jewelry, September 27, 2024. Platinum wedding band, 6mm, custom engraved, $14,800. Ethan had asked for a loan, said he wanted to surprise Victoria. "Just a loan, Dad. I'll pay you back." I wrote the check. He told her it was his savings. Document 4, personal check, 1847, October 16th, 2024. 11,950 to Ashton Grand Hotel Photography Services. 2 days before the wedding, Ethan called panicked. "Dad, the photographer needs the balance." Victoria's parents thought we had it covered. "Can you?" I drove to the hotel, handed the check to James, the catering manager. He looked at me, his eyes lingering. "My father was a teacher too," he said. "I respect what you're doing." He didn't know the half of it. The numbers added up: 60,000 for the wedding, 30,000 for the honeymoon, 14,800 for the band, 950 for the photographer, 116 turns 750, more than 2 years of my salary after taxes. And yet to the Crawfords, I was the embarrassment, the man who didn't belong in their world of summer homes and verbified vacations. The final blow came 2 days before the wedding, a Thursday afternoon in the school parking lot. Ethan called. "Hey, Dad, about the mother-son dance?" My heart lifted briefly. Fiona's moment, the one tradition that could honor her. "Yeah," I said. "Victoria's mom wants to do something special, a tribute to all mothers. It'd be kind of sad if we did the traditional thing, with Mom gone. You understand, right?" Silence stretched between us. I gripped the steering wheel, Fiona's voice echoing from 5 years ago. "Don't let anyone treat you like you don't matter. Walter, you matter. Promise me." "Whatever you want, son," I said finally. "It's your day." He exhaled, relieved. "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." I hung up staring at the dashboard of my 2016 Honda Accord, a small dent in the rear bumper, from a parking lot mishap in 2022. Fiona's dance, her memory erased so Diane could have her moment. I opened the metal box, pulled out her letter. I didn't read it, I couldn't, but I held it, feeling the weight of her words. That's when I knew something had to change. I didn't tell anyone, not yet. But the equation was unbalanced, and I was done pretending it wasn't. As I dressed for the wedding, they slipped the letter into my suit pocket, a quiet rebellion against the day's erasure. The Grand Ashton loomed as I arrived at 2:00 p.m. Ethan's request for help with his cufflinks, a rare father-son moment. His suite on the fourth floor smelled of cologne and nerves. He opened the door in tuxedo pants and a white shirt, his smile tight. "Thanks for coming early, Dad." I stepped in, adjusting the silver cufflinks engraved with his and Victoria's initials. "Big day," I said. "Yeah, huge," he replied. "Victoria's family really went all out." I waited, hoping he'd mention the honeymoon, the band, the photographer. Nothing. "You ready?" I asked. "I think so. Just want everything to be perfect." I finished the second cufflink. "It will be Buttigayum." We stood in silence, the weight of unspoken truths between us. I wanted to ask about the 60,000, about Fiona, about why he'd let her memory be buried. But I didn't. "I'll see you out there," I said, leaving the suite. The hallway felt colder than it should have, the chandeliers casting fractured light across the marble. Something was stirring in me, a spark from my old life, the one where I didn't just accept things as they were. I touched the letter in my pocket, Fiona's voice whispering through the years. The ceremony began at 6:15 p.m. Diane had orchestrated the seating chart, placing me in row 7 left side, while the Crawfords filled the front row with gold calligraphed reserve signs. Pandora behind me in row 8 leaned forward. "You should be up front, Walter." I shook my head. "It's fine." She hissed, "It's not." The string quartet played. Diane walked down the aisle in a $3 $200 champagne gown, escorted by Richard to applause and camera flashes. I walked alone, unannounced, and sat without fanfare. Victoria followed, radiant in her dress, but my eyes were on Ethan, his face a mask of excitement and something else, guilt, perhaps, or fear. During his vows, Ethan went off script. "Victoria, I'm so grateful to your parents for welcoming me into your incredible family, for showing me what generosity looks like." The camera panned to Diane and Richard, her tears staged his nod proud. No mention of me, of Fiona, of the money that made this day possible. Pandora's hand gripped my shoulder, her whisper sharp. "He's choosing them. Walter, don't let him." The reception began at 7:30, cocktail hour, a blur of clinking glasses and forced smiles. I tried to approach Ethan and Victoria to offer congratulations, but Diane intercepted me, her heels clicking like a metronome. "Walter, so nice you could make it," she said, her smile a blade. "Ethan's so lucky to have Victoria's family. We've been so generous." The word generous landed like a slap. Richard joined us, his handshake firm, his voice patronizing. "We just want the kids set up right, a good start." I stayed silent, my jaw tight as they walked away. Diane's voice carried to the woman beside her. "It's so important that they have the right foundation. Financial security, The implication was clear. They provided it, not me. I stood alone, the letter in my pocket, heavier than ever. The ballroom spun with laughter and music, but I felt like I was standing in a different world, one where truths were buried and sacrifices ignored. Pandora caught my eye again, her expression a mix of fury and pity. I didn't want pity. I wanted answers. Why had Ethan lied? Why had he let Fiona's memory be erased? And why did I feel a pull, like a forgotten formula, urging me to act? As the DJ announced the grand entrance, Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Kane, followed by Richard and Diane Crawford with fanfare, then Walter Kane with a brief clap, I realized the equation was breaking. Matter cannot be created or destroyed, but it can change form. And I was ready to change. The weight of Fiona's letter in my suit pocket felt like a stone as I stood in the Grand Ashton Hotel's lobby, the echoes of the rehearsal dinner still ringing in my ears. It was October 17th, 2024, the night before Ethan's wedding, and the air was thick with the kind of polished deceit that only wealth can orchestrate. I'm Walter Kane, a 56-year-old chemistry teacher who once decoded secrets in a lab no one spoke of. Now I was decoding something else, the slow, deliberate erasure of my worth by my son and the family he was marrying into. 5 years ago, on April 28th, 2019, Fiona slipped away from me. Breast cancer had carved her down to a shadow, but her spirit never broke. She was a night shift nurse, her hands steady through 20 years at Presbyterian Hospital saving lives, while hers ebbed away. When she died, she left an $85,000 life insurance policy, her signature in blue ink smudged on the MetLife form. I can still see her signing it, her hand trembling, but her eyes fierce as if she knew the battles I'd face. That money was for Ethan, our son, to build a future, a house stability, a life she'd worked nights to secure. I gave him $60,000 of it on August 12th, 2022, my voice steady as I handed him the bank transfer receipt. This is from your mother, Ethan. For a down payment. Make her proud. He hugged me, promised to save every penny. I believed him. I always believed him. But 3 months ago, in June 2024, I scrolled through Victoria's Instagram and saw the truth. A photo of her and Ethan signing the venue contract, her caption glowing, "So blessed for our dream wedding. Can't wait to marry my best friend." The venue upgrade, the open bar, the live band, it was all there, paid for with Fiona's money. $60,000 gone to impress the Crawfords, Charlotte's real estate dynasty, without a word to me. Ethan hadn't told Victoria either, letting her believe he'd funded it himself. The betrayal wasn't just the money, it was the silence, the way he let his mother's sacrifice vanish into the Crawfords' narrative of generosity. The rehearsal dinner at Blackstone Steakhouse was the first crack in the facade I'd built to ignore it all. The private room with its burgundy walls and crystal chandelier cost $6,200, a bill the Crawfords paid and made sure everyone knew about. Diane Crawford stood, her 3x5 note cards crisp in her manicured hands, delivering a 12-minute toast that named everyone but me and Fiona. The florist, the planner, Victoria's sorority sisters, even the caterer got a nod. Ethan clapped, called her the best mother-in-law, while I sat at the far end of the table, a stranger in my son's new world. Pandora, Fiona's best friend, caught my eye across the room, her head shaking slowly. "They're rewriting your story, Walter," she whispered later, her voice low and urgent. "And Ethan's letting them." I pulled Ethan aside after the toast, the hallway dim and quiet compared to the ballroom's glow. "Your mom would have loved this," I said, testing the waters. His smile was distracted, his eyes darting back to the room. "Yeah, Dad, for sure." I pressed, keeping my tone light. "Diane didn't mention me in her speech." He shrugged. "Don't take it personal, Dad. It's just wedding stuff." She was nervous. But those note cards weren't nervous. They were calculated, each bullet point a deliberate exclusion. I let it go, or thought I did, but the seed Pandora planted grew roots. Something was wrong, and it wasn't just wedding stress. Back home that night, I sat at our kitchen table, the laminate scratched from Ethan's childhood art projects and Fiona's late-night charting. I opened my laptop, pulled up the email from May 8, 2024, Kane honeymoon confirmation, VT882193. Etihad Airways first-class tickets to the Maldives, a water villa at the Conrad Rangali for 10 nights. $3,206. 80, more than half my annual take-home pay. I'd booked it through Ashley, Victoria's best friend, who'd winced every time Diane called me the teacher like it was a slur. The Crawfords thought Ethan paid for it. Ethan let them think that. I stared at the number, my pulse quickening. Not with anger, but with something older, sharper, a flicker of the man I used to be, the one who solved problems no one else could. Under the driver's seat of my 2016 Honda Accord was a locked metal box, a relic from my past life as a chemist for a firm that operated in shadows. Patents, formulas, things I'd sworn to leave behind when I chose Fiona and teaching. But there was one item that didn't belong to that life. Fiona's letter, written days before she died, sealed in an envelope I hadn't opened since 2019. I'd carried it like a talisman, a piece of her I wasn't ready to face. That night I pulled it out, my fingers tracing the edges. I didn't open it, I couldn't, but her voice came anyway from our last conversation. Don't let anyone treat you like you don't matter, Walter. You matter. Promise me. I'd promised, but for 5 years I'd broken that promise, letting Ethan and the Crawfords chip away at me. The wedding planning had revealed their true colors piece by piece. It started small 3 weeks before the ceremony when the wedding program arrived. Crane's Electra paper gold foil, $2.800 for 250 copies. Pandora showed it to me at Emily's coffee shop, her eyes blazing. Look at this, Walter. The Crawford family crest dominated the cover. Richard and Diane got a full paragraph, their titles gleaming. President and CEO of Crawford Properties, President of the Junior League. My name, one line 8-point font, Walter Kane. No mention of raising Ethan alone, of teaching of Fiona. This is about respect, Pandora said, her voice trembling. They're erasing her, and you're letting them. I told her it was fine, that it was Ethan's day, but her words echoed Fiona's and I couldn't shake them. Then came the smaller slights, each a needle in my skin. Diane's emails about the wedding never included me, only CC'd me as an afterthought. At a planning meeting in July, Richard clapped Ethan on the shoulder and said, "You're lucky to be joining a family that can give you a real start." I was in the room, invisible. Victoria, sweet but oblivious, gushed about her parents' generosity, unaware that Fiona's money paid for the venue's crystal centerpieces. Ethan never corrected her. He'd met Victoria in December 2023, proposed 6 months later, and fell into the Crawfords' orbit like a comet caught by a star. I understood why Richard owned half of Uptown Charlotte. Diane ran the social scene, their world a glittering promise of security. But I didn't expect Ethan to trade his mother's memory for it. The deepest cut came 2 days before the wedding, a Thursday afternoon in the school parking lot. I was grading papers in my car, the air heavy with October's chill, when Ethan called. "Hey, Dad, about the mother-son dance?" My heart lifted. Fiona's moment, the one tradition that could bring her back even briefly. "Yeah," I said, hopeful. "Victoria's mom wants to do something special, a tribute to all mothers. It'd be kind of sad if we did the traditional thing, with Mom gone. You understand, right?" The phone went silent, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. Fiona's dance, the one thing that could have honored her, erased for Diane's spotlight. "Whatever you want, son," I said, my voice hollow. "It's your day." He exhaled, relieved. "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." I hung up, staring at the dashboard, the dent in my rear bumper, a reminder of small collisions that add up. I opened the metal box, pulled out Fiona's letter. Her handwriting was faint through the envelope, but her voice was loud in my head. "You matter, Walter. Promise me." I've been breaking that promise for years, absorbing Ethan's choices, the Crawfords' slights, telling myself it was love. But love without boundaries isn't love, it's surrender. Something shifted in me, a spark from my old life when I'd solved equations too complex for others to see. I didn't tell anyone, not even Pandora, but I knew I couldn't stay silent much longer. The folder in my car held the evidence of my sacrifice. Document 1, MetLife payout letter, $85,000. Fiona's signature from April 28, 2019, naming Ethan as beneficiary for his future. Document 2, bank transfer receipt, August 12, 2022, $60,000 to Ethan, memo line, mom's gift. Make her proud. Document 3, Bailey's fine jewelry receipt, September 27, 24, $14,800 for a platinum wedding band Ethan claimed as his own. Document 4, check 1847, October 16, 2024, $11,950 to Ashton Grand Hotel for the photographer's balance. Ethan had called 2 days earlier, panicked. "Dad, there's a problem. The photographer needs the balance. Victoria's parents thought we had it covered. Can you—" I drove to the hotel, handed the check to James, the catering manager. His nod was knowing, almost conspiratorial. "My father was a teacher too," he said. "I respect what you're doing." I wondered if he saw the storm brewing in me. Added up, $60,000 for the wedding, $30,000 for the honeymoon, $14,800 for the band, $11,950 for the photographer, $160,750, a sum that could have bought Ethan a home, a future. Instead, it bought a lie, a facade to impress the Crawfords. And they thanked me with silence, with smirks, with a seat in row 7. But there was something else, something I hadn't told Pandora or even acknowledged fully myself. In my past life, I'd worked on projects that blurred the line between science and secrets, formulas that could hide truths, manipulate perceptions. I'd left that world for Fiona, for Ethan, for a life of honesty. But the Crawfords game felt familiar, like a code I'd once cracked. Diane's calculated exclusions, Ethan's lies. Richard's patronizing grip, they weren't just slights. They were moves in a game I'd played before in a lab where trust was a luxury. I didn't know what they were hiding, but I felt it, a shadow beneath their polished surface. Pandora saw it too. At our last coffee before the wedding, she leaned across the table, her eyes searching mine. Walter, there's something off about them. Fiona would have sniffed it out in a heartbeat. She always said Diane had a way of smiling that hid knives. I laughed it off, but Pandora didn't. You're caring too much, Walter. Fiona's money. Ethan's choices this wedding. What's in that box you keep in your car? I froze. She'd seen me take it out once months ago. When I thought I was alone, nothing I said too quickly. She raised an eyebrow. Fiona told me you used to be someone else. Someone who didn't let people push him around. Where's that man now? I didn't answer, but her words dug deep. The man I used to be knew how to act, how to shift the equation when the balance tipped too far. That night, I sat in my living room, the house Fiona and I bought in 1997, quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I pulled out the metal box, set it on the coffee table, and stared at it. The lock was simple, but opening it felt like crossing a line. Inside were the patents, the formulas, the life I'd left. In Fiona's letter, its edges worn from years of being held, but never read. I traced her handwriting, my heart pounding. What had she written that I was so afraid to see? What truth was I avoiding? The next morning, I drove to school, the box still in my car. I taught my classes stoichiometry, periodic trends, the law of conservation of mass. Matter cannot be created or destroyed, only changed. I'd changed once from a chemist of secrets to a teacher of truths. But the Crawfords, Ethan, this wedding, they were forcing me to change again. I didn't know how, not yet, but the spark was growing, fueled by Fiona's voice in the weight of her letter. By the time I arrived at the Grand Ashton for the wedding, I was carrying more than a suit and cufflinks. I was carrying years of silence, of sacrifices unacknowledged, of a promise I'd broken. Ethan's request for help with his cufflinks felt like a fleeting connection, but his words in the suite, Victoria's family, really went all out, cut deeper than I expected. I waited for him to mention the honeymoon, the band, the photographer. He didn't. I finished the cufflinks, my hands steady, and left without a word, the letter in my pocket, a quiet reminder of who I was supposed to be. As I walked into the ballroom, the chandeliers glittering above, I felt the equations shifting. The Crawfords' world was a carefully constructed illusion, and Ethan had bought into it, trading his mother's memory for their approval. But I wasn't just a teacher anymore. I was Walter Kane, the man who'd once solved problems others couldn't, and I was ready to solve this one. The Grand Ashton Hotel's ballroom shimmered like a mirage. Its 28-foot ceilings and 3 crystal chandeliers casting fractured light across 220 guests. It was October 18th, 2024, 8:00 p.m., and the air buzzed with champagne-fueled laughter and the clink of crystal. I stood at the edge of the dance floor, my off-the-rack suit from Fiona's funeral 5 years ago, feeling tighter than ever. Not from fit, but from the weight of what I carried. In my pocket, Fiona's unopened letter burned like a coal, her voice from our last days echoing, "Don't let anyone treat you like you don't matter. Walter, you matter. Promise me." I'm Walter Kane, a 56-year-old chemistry teacher who once unraveled secrets in a lab no one named. Tonight I was unraveling something else, a lie that had buried my wife's memory and my own worth. The wedding of my son Ethan to Victoria Crawford was a spectacle, a $85,000 production orchestrated by the Crawfords, Charlotte's real estate royalty. They'd claimed credit for every detail, the orchids flown in from Thailand, the string quartet, the gold-foiled programs on Crane's electropaper. But the truth, a secret I'd kept like a locked formula, was that I'd paid for most of it, $60,000 from Fiona's life insurance, for the venue, $14 Chelsea $800 for Ethan's platinum wedding band, $11,950 for the photographer, and $200 for a Maldives honeymoon. Over $116,000, nearly 2 years of my $68,000 a year salary after taxes poured into a day that erased Fiona and diminished me to a footnote. The ceremony had ended an hour ago, a 23-minute ritual where Ethan's vows thanked the Crawfords for their generosity while ignoring his mother's sacrifice. I sat in row 7 left side as Diane Crawford's seating chart dictated, watching her glide down the aisle in a $200 champagne gown, to applause while I walked alone unannounced. Now at the reception, the DJ's voice boomed. Mr. and Mrs. Ethan Kane cheers erupted. Parents of the bride, Richard and Diane Crawford's spotlights, and applause followed. Then, and the groom's father, Walter Kane. A brief clap swallowed by the DJ's quick pivot to the next announcement. Pandora Fiona's best friend caught my eye from table 18, her jaw tight, her head shaking. "You're not invisible, Walter," she'd whispered earlier. But I felt it, a ghost in a room full of light. The dinner filet mignon at 80 baht plate, 18,700 for 220 guests, was served as toasts began. The best man's speech was light, sentimental, 6 minutes of college stories. The maid of honor followed, 7 minutes of childhood memories. Then Richard Crawford stood, his voice commanding the room. "I've been looking forward to this moment," he said, his 8-minute speech, a sermon on family legacy and business success. "We've given these kids the foundation they need, the best education, the best connections, the best start." My knuckles whitened around my water glass, the thin stem trembling. He sat to cheers, Diane beaming beside him, her champagne glass raised like a scepter. The DJ opened the floor for additional toasts. "Anyone who'd like to share?" I stood, my legs moving before my mind caught up. Pandora whispered, Walter, her voice a mix of warning and encouragement. I walked to the microphone at the front, 15 seconds, stretching like a lifetime, every eye on me. The room hushed, forks pausing midair. I adjusted the mic, my hand steady despite the pulse hammering in my throat. "Good evening," I began. "I'm Walter Kane, Ethan's father." Polite applause rippled from a few tables. I opened my mouth to continue to speak of Fiona, of love, of sacrifice. But Ethan stood, his face pale, striding toward me. "Dad, wait." His voice was low, but the front rows heard. He reached for the mic. "We talked about this. We're running long." I held his gaze, my voice calm. "You said I could speak Thursday. You said maybe." He leaned closer, his hand on the mic. "Look, Victoria's family has a schedule." Diane rose from the head table, her champagne glass gleaming, her voice cutting through the ballroom. "Yes, let's keep things moving. The cake cuttings soon." She walked toward us, her Louboutin heels clicking 18 steps. I counted her smile, a hostess's mask. "Walter, you're so sweet to want to participate, but we've had the family toasts." She emphasized family like I wasn't part of it. "I'm his father," I said, my voice steady but sharp. She tilted her head, her tone patronizing. "Of course, and you've been lovely, but timing, you understand." Guests shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. At the Crawford table, Victoria's uncle muttered of awkward loud enough to carry. Ethan gripped my elbow, his thumb pressing my ulnar nerve, not rough but insistent. "Dad, please." He leaned closer, whispering, but Pandora at table 18 and table 3 heard it. "Don't embarrass me." 5 words. They landed like a chemical reaction, igniting something I hadn't felt in years. "Embarrass you?" I said, my voice low, cold. "You know what I mean?" Ethan hissed. "They planned everything. Just let it go." Diane chimed in louder now. "Walter, maybe you're tired. It's been a long day. Why don't you sit? We'll catch up later." She spoke as if I were confused, a child to be managed. The room watched, 220 faces, a mix of pity, amusement, and discomfort. The Crawfords smirked. Victoria looked worried. Ethan's eyes begged me to disappear. I saw it clearly. I was the problem. My $68,000 salary, my Joes, a bank suit, my existence as a teacher in their world of wealth. But Fiona's voice broke through from that last hospital conversation. "You matter, Walter." I handed the mic to Ethan. He exhaled, relieved. "Thanks, Dad. I appreciate." I cut him off. "I need to make a phone call." My voice was calm, final. "Dad, where? I'll be right back." I turned, walking toward the exit, 30 feet to the double doors with brass handles. Guests murmured Diane's forced cheer, calling out, "All right, everyone, let's get ready for cake." Pandora stood following me, her steps quick. Ethan returned to Victoria, whispering something. She nodded. The cake cutting began 3 minutes later, the room oblivious to my absence. But I wasn't gone. Not yet. In the hotel lobby, marble floors gleaming under a vaulted ceiling, I found a leather chair in a shadowed corner. Another wedding party laughed near the elevators, their joy a stark contrast to the storm inside me. Pandora appeared, her eyes searching. "What are you doing, Walter?" I pulled out my phone, opened the files folder. 3 phone calls. Watch. Call 1. I dialed Golden Horizons Travel's after-hours line. The automated system answered, Thank you for calling. If you're calling about an existing reservation, press 1. I pressed 1, entered the confirmation code VT882193. Conrad Maldives Kane, booking departure October 21st. Total cost $216.80. To cancel, press 2. I pressed 2. Are you sure? Press 1 to confirm. I pressed 1. Cancellation processed. Refund to original payment method within 5-7 business days. I hung up, meeting Pandora's wide eyes. The honeymoon, I said. Fiona's money, not theirs. Call 2. I scrolled to Harold Bennett, my attorney who'd handled Fiona's estate in 2019. He answered on the second ring. Walter, everything okay? His voice was steady, grounding. Harold, I need you tomorrow morning. I'm revoking the wedding gift at the joint account. A pause. You're still within the vesting period. How much? $125,000. He whistled softly. Jesus, Walter. You sure I'm done being walked over? He didn't hesitate. I'll draft the withdrawal authorization tonight. It'll be ready by 9:00 a.m. Monday. I thanked him, hung up feeling the equation shift. Call 3. I opened my voicemail app, hit record. Ethan, it's Dad. I'm leaving. The honeymoon is canceled. Check your email in 2 minutes. The joint account wedding gift, I'm withdrawing it Monday morning. The wedding band receipt, the photographer bill. I paid your mother $60,000 you spent on this wedding, all documented attached. You called me an embarrassment in front of 220 people. You let Diane treat me like I'm nothing. You erased Fiona from your wedding. So now you'll learn what embarrassment means. I loved you. I loved your mother more than anything. But I won't fund disrespect. Goodbye. I stopped recording, attached 7 files: MetLife letter, bank transfer, jewelry receipt, photographer, check, honeymoon, confirmation, and 2 others from my lockbox, a patent from my past, and a cryptic note I'd found in Fiona's hospital bag, unsigned, reading, "The truth is in the numbers." I didn't know why I included them, only that they felt like pieces of a puzzle I was still solving. I hit send. Pandora's eyes were wet. You're not going back in there. I stood my suit jacket, brushing the letter in my pocket. Actually, I am. They deserve to know who paid for their party. She grabbed my arm. Walter, be careful. There's something off about the Crawfords. Fiona always said Diane's smile hid knives. I nodded, the spark from my old life when I'd cracked codes and uncovered secrets flaring brighter. I pushed through the double doors, the ballroom's music halting as I stepped inside. The DJ was mid-song, guests eating cake, laughter filling the air. I walked to James, the catering manager, standing near the sound booth. I need the microphone, I said. 30 seconds. He studied my face, his eyes narrowing as if he saw the storm within me. You got it. He spoke to the DJ, who handed over the mic with a confused frown. James placed it in my hand, his nod almost conspiratorial. I walked to the center of the dance floor, guests pausing, mid-bite conversations fading. Ethan saw me, stood. Dad, what? I pressed the mic button, feedback squealing briefly. I apologize for the interruption. This will be brief. The room went silent, 220 pairs of eyes locked on me. Diane started to stand, Richard's hand on her arm stopped her. I took a breath, my voice calm, measured, but carrying the weight of years. My name is Walter Kane. I'm a high school chemistry teacher. I make $68,000 a year. I paused, letting the number sink in, meeting eyes across the room. 5 years ago, my wife Fiona died of breast cancer. She was a nurse, night shifts at Presbyterian Hospital for 20 years. She left a life insurance policy, $85,000. I held up my phone, the MetLife document visible, Fiona's signature clear. I gave my son Ethan $60,000 in August 2022 for a down payment on a house, his mother's gift. I looked at Ethan, his face paling. You spent it on this wedding. You never told me. You never told Victoria. Gasps rippled through the room. Victoria's mouth opened, her eyes darting to Ethan. He froze, sweating. I continued, my voice steady. 3 weeks ago, I paid $14,800 for Ethan's wedding band. I held up the jeweler's receipt on my phone. He told Victoria it was his savings. More gasps, a woman at table 9 whispering, "Oh my God." I nodded to James. 3 days ago, I paid $11,950 for the photographer's final balance. James processed my check. It cleared Friday. James nodded, confirming into the room. And 4 months ago, May 8th, I secretly booked the honeymoon. First-class flights to the Maldives, 10 nights at the Conrad Rengali Water Villa. I showed the confirmation, the amount glaring $30, 280. The silence was deafening, the air conditioning audible. Total $160, 750. Nearly 2 years of my take-home salary. I let that sink in, my eyes sweeping Diane Richard, the guests who'd applauded their generosity. 90 minutes ago, I said, my voice still calm. My son told me not to embarrass him. I looked at Ethan, then Diane, then Richard. So I called the travel agency. The honeymoon is canceled. The room erupted, gas, murmurs, a fork clattering on china. Victoria stood, her voice sharp. What? I continued unwavering. I called my attorney. The $125,000 wedding gift in your joint account. I'm withdrawing it Monday morning. 9:00 a.m. Ethan stepped forward. Dad, you can't. It's my money, Ethan, I said, my voice cutting through. From your mother's sacrifice. I turned to the Crawfords. You told everyone you planned everything, that you were generous, that you welcomed Ethan into your incredible family. You paid for the rehearsal dinner, sick on 200. Congratulations. The sarcasm landed, guests shifting uncomfortably. I paid for the honeymoon, the band, the photographer, and the $60,000 Ethan spent on this wedding without telling anyone. And I'm the one you told to sit down. Richard stood, his face red. Now wait, just a minute, I cut him off, my voice rising for the first time. I'm a teacher. You made sure everyone knew that, like it's an insult. My wife was a nurse, night shifts for 20 years. Her money paid for this wedding. My voice cracked, but I steadied it. And my son thanked everyone tonight except me. He thanked you for your generosity, for giving him a foundation. He erased his mother. No photo, no memorial, no mention in the program. I turned to Ethan, my eyes locking on his. You canceled the mother-son dance so Diane could do a tribute to all mothers. Fiona's been dead 5 years. You couldn't give her 3 minutes. Several guests were crying now. A woman at table 12 wiping her eyes. Pandora stood at table 18, tears streaming, her voice ringing out. Fiona was the best person I knew. I nodded. She was. And her money bought your respect tonight. But you gave me none of it. I set the microphone down gently on the nearest table. The receipts are in Ethan's email. 7 attachments. If anyone has questions, he can explain where the money came from. I started walking toward the exit, my steps deliberate. Ethan moved, calling out, Dad, wait, I didn't stop, didn't turn. We just did, I said over my shoulder. Pandora fell in step beside me, James opening the ballroom doors ahead of us. As they closed behind us, the silence erupted into chaos, voices rising, shocked conversations. The DJ didn't restart the music. In the lobby, I felt the letter in my pocket. Fiona's words, a quiet pulse. Pandora touched my arm. You did it, Walter. Fiona would be proud. I nodded, my throat tight. I should have done it sooner. We walked to the hotel entrance, the ballet bureau, bringing my silver Honda Accord, its dent a small scar from 2222. I tipped him $5, got in Pandora following in her car. My phone rang before I reached the parking lot exit. Ethan, then Victoria, then unknown numbers. I silenced it, drove the 12 miles home, the road blurring not with tears, but with clarity. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of their disrespect. I was carrying something else, Fiona's promise, and the man I used to be, waking up. The double doors of the Grand Ashton Hotel's ballroom closed behind me with a soft thud, sealing away the chaos I'd unleashed. It was October 18th, 2024, 10:30 p.m., and the Charlotte night was crisp, the city's skyline glittering like a false promise. I'm Walter Kane, a 56-year-old chemistry teacher who just walked away from my son's wedding after exposing his lies and canceling a $30,000 Maldives honeymoon. In my pocket, Fiona's unopened letter felt heavier than ever, her words from 5 years ago. A quiet fire, you matter, Walter. Promise me. For the first time since her death, I felt like I was keeping that promise. Pandora. Fiona's best friend stood beside me in the hotel lobby, her eyes wet but fierce. You did it, Walter, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Fiona would be proud. I nodded, my throat tight, and walked to the valet stand. My 2016 Honda Accord Silver with a dented rear bumper from 2022 pulled up under the hotel's glowing marquee. I tipped the valet $5, slid into the driver's seat, and drove the 12 miles home, Pandora's car trailing behind. My phone vibrated relentlessly. Ethan, Victoria, unknown numbers, but I silenced it. The road stretching before me like a clean equation. No tears, no rage, just clarity. I'd taken back what was mine. By the time I pulled into the driveway of the three-bedroom house Fiona and I bought in 1997, my phone showed 19 missed calls, 14 from Ethan, 3 from Victoria, 2 from unknowns, 7 voicemails, 23 text messages. I didn't read them, didn't listen. I forwarded everything to Harold Bennett, my attorney, with a note. Document all of this. His reply came 3 minutes later. Already drafting. See you 9:00 a.m. Monday. Get some sleep, Walter. I sat on the couch, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator, the metal box from my car containing Fiona's letter-old patents, and that cryptic note. The truth is in the number sat on the coffee table unopened but looming. I slept 8 hours straight, the first unbroken rest in months. Sunday morning, October 19th, I woke at 7:30, made black coffee, and sat at the scratched laminate kitchen table. My laptop pinged with an email from Victoria sent at 8:15 a.m. Subject: I'm so sorry, Mr. Kane. Her words spilled out raw and unpolished. I had no idea about any of this. Ethan never told me about the $60,000, the wedding band, the photographer, the honeymoon. I feel sick. I'm so sorry for how my mother treated you. I never wanted this. I just wanted to marry Ethan. Can we talk? I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know I didn't know. I stared at the screen, her words a mix of sincerity and desperation. For 5 minutes, I sat coffee cooling before replying. Victoria, I have no anger toward you. Ethan made his choices. Those choices have consequences. I wish you both well. I hit send, deleted the rest of the unread emails except one from Ashley, Victoria's best friend, sent at 7:02 a.m. Subject: You did the right thing. Mr. Kane, she wrote, everyone's talking about what happened. Diane is having a complete meltdown. Half the guests left last night without saying goodbye. The other half are texting about it this morning. You did the right thing. I felt sick watching how they treated you. I hope you're okay, I replied. Thank you for helping with the honeymoon booking. You're a good person. Her response was immediate. You paid for it. You had every right to cancel it. I'm sorry it came to this. My phone rang, an unknown number, likely Victoria's uncle's phone. I answered, bracing myself. Dad, please. Ethan's voice cracked. The honeymoon, Victoria's crying. Her parents are freaking out. Can we just... I cut him off. You spent your mother's money without telling me. You let them erase her memory. Silence, then a shaky, I know. I should have said something, but... You chose them over me. Over Fiona. Another pause longer. So you're just going to destroy my marriage. Take everything back. His voice broke. I'm taking back what was mine, I said. You destroyed your own marriage by lying to your wife, he pleaded. I need that money, Dad. The joint account. We have plans. You had plans, I replied. Monday morning, 9:00 a.m. It's gone, I hung up. Blocked his number. Victoria's and every Crawford contact in my phone. Monday, October 24th. I walked into Harold's office on the 4th floor of 125 North Trade Street, downtown Charlotte. The frosted glass door read Benedin Associates in gold lettering. Harold, 64, gray hair and wire glasses, shook my hand, his grip firm but warm. Fiona would be proud of you, Walter, he said, sliding 3 documents across his oak desk. The first was the joint account withdrawal authorization, Wells Fargo, $125,000, still within the 90-day vesting period. My signature alone was required. I signed black ink, steady hand. This will clear, Thursday, Harold said. The second document confirmed the honeymoon cancellation, $30, $216.80 refunded to my Visa. The third was an expense summary protection against future legal claims. If Ethan tries to sue, you're covered, Harold said. Receipts, witnesses, his lies to Victoria. No judge would side with him. I nodded, stood, and left at 10:15 a.m. At the Wells Fargo branch on South Boulevard, the account manager, Jenna Stevens, mid-40s with kind eyes, pulled up the account. It'll process today, Mr. Kane. Funds in your personal account by Thursday. She printed a receipt, then hesitated. My daughter's getting married next year. She showed me a video this morning from a wedding this weekend. My stomach tightened. Online? She nodded. TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. It's everywhere. She paused, her voice soft. For what it's worth, you're a hero to a lot of parents right now. I took the receipt, thanked her, and walked to my car, my heart sinking as I opened Twitter and typed teacher, wedding dad. The results loaded a tidal wave of exposure. The top tweet had 4.2 million views, a 45-second clip of me at the microphone. The honeymoon is canceled. Gasps Victoria, standing what caption? Teacher dad exposes son who spent dead mom's insurance on wedding. 23,000 retweets, 16,000 quote tweets, 48,000 likes. Comments flooded in. This is why you don't marry up and forget your roots. The mom's memory being erased broke me. 117K from a teacher. That's love. The son's trash. Diane got what she deserved. Classist nightmare. TikTok was worse, a 2-minute, 18-second video. 2.4 million views posted by someone at Table 14. Reddit's a wedding drama thread. Teacher father cancels honeymoon after son calls him embarrassment. Had 600 upvotes. 200 comments. The Charlotte Observer ran a story, viral wedding moment, sparks debate on family boundaries and respect. Anonymous guest quoted, the father paid for almost everything. The bride's family took all the credit. It was disgusting. I drove home, sat on my couch, and stared at the wall. This wasn't what I wanted. Global humiliation wasn't my goal. I wanted boundaries, consequences, not a spectacle. But the video was out there, permanent, a reaction I couldn't contain. Pandora texted, have you seen it? Are you okay? I replied. I've seen it. I'm fine. She wrote back, you're not fine, but you will be. Call me if you need anything. That afternoon, my principal, Dr. Helen Morrison, called. Walter, I saw the news. Are you all right? Do you need time off? I declined. I'll be at school tomorrow. Helen, I'm fine. She paused. The district's aware. If media contacts you, refer them to me. And Walter, what you did took courage. I hung up, opened Ethan's LinkedIn, dozens of new connection requests, some with hostile messages. Victoria's Instagram had gone private, flooded with comments before she locked it. Diane's junior league page was hit with negative reviews. Classist organization treats working people like garbage. Diane Crawford is everything wrong with wealth. I closed my laptop, feeling sick. The equation had shifted, but the fallout was messier than I'd imagined. Tuesday, October 22nd. I taught my classes stoichiometry, periodic tables, the same lessons I delivered for 23 years. The students didn't know, but the teachers did. At lunch, 4 colleagues approached me in the staff room. Jennifer Hayes, English teacher, said, Walter, you're incredible. Thomas Wilson, history teacher, added, my son pulled something similar last year. Wish I'd had your spine. Their respect felt strange, unfamiliar, but grounding. Dr. Morrison checked in, her concern genuine. The media's calling, Walter. We're handling it. I nodded, grateful, and kept teaching the rhythm of equations anchoring me. By Wednesday, October 23rd, the viral storm grew. Parenting blogs published pieces, BuzzFeed's When Generosity Becomes Enabling. Huffington Post's The Teacher Dad, who said enough, scary mommies, the working class parent dilemma. Online polls asked, was the father right to cancel the honeymoon? 83% said yes. 94,000 votes. Comments were brutal toward Ethan and the Crawfords. Imagine lying to your wife about money. Divorce him, Victoria. Diane thought she was better than everyone. Karma. A few defended Ethan. He made a mistake, not a crime. But they were drowned out. Ethan's workplace, a marketing firm obsessed with image, took notice. A co-worker I didn't know sent a LinkedIn message. Mr. Kane, I work with your son. Management pulled him aside yesterday. They're concerned about client perception. Thought you should know. I didn't respond. Victoria had moved out 3 days after the wedding, staying with her parents. Ethan was alone in their 1-bedroom apartment, a $2 and $400 a month rental owned by the Crawfords. His $72,000 salary barely covered rent, a BMW lease he'd hidden, and $23,000 in credit card debt. Victoria discovered post-wedding. She demanded marriage counseling. Their first session was set for November 8th. She emailed me asking if I'd join eventually to address family of origin issues. I replied, I'm not ready, but I hope it helps you both. The Crawfords' reputation took a hit. Diane's junior league presidency faced scrutiny, members horrified by the video. Though some defended her, it was her daughter's wedding. She had a right to manage it. Charlotte's high society, smaller than it seemed, buzzed with gossip. Richard's business weathered it, money protects money. But three clients mentioned the video in meetings. Their small talk pointed, saw something about your daughter's wedding online. Everything all right? His laugh was strained, his face red. Victoria's younger sister, Emma, 24, texted me directly. Mr. Kane, I'm so sorry for how my family treated you. You were always kind to me. I never agreed with Mom's behavior. I hope you're okay. I replied, thank you, Emma. That means a lot. She wrote back, Victoria's a mess. She feels betrayed by Ethan for lying by my parents for how they treated you. She doesn't know who to trust. Tell her I'm not angry at her. I responded, I will. None of this was her fault. Emma's final message, she's not sure the marriage can survive. Thursday, October 24th, the $125,000 appeared in my account. My phone pinged with a bank notification showing $142, 380.67. Victoria sent a screenshot of Ethan's joint account, 347.52. Her message was frantic. He told me we had $130,000 saved. I just found out the truth. He has $23,000 in credit card debt in a BMW lease I didn't know about. I thought he owned it. I don't know who I married. I replied, I'm sorry you're going through this, Victoria. He made these choices, not you, not me. She didn't respond. Friday, October 25th. The honeymoon refund hit $30, $216.80. I sat at my kitchen table, opened a new folder labeled Fiona Kane Memorial Fund, and transferred the refund into a savings account. Purpose: a scholarship for single parents pursuing education. First recipient next fall. Someone like Fiona who worked nights, sacrificed everything. I looked at her photo on the mantle, our wedding day, 1994, her smile radiant in a white dress. I did it, I said to the empty room. I stopped letting them walk over me. But the story wasn't over. That afternoon, Pandora called, her voice urgent. Walter, have you checked your email? There's something you need to see. I opened my laptop, found an anonymous message sent at 3:47 a.m. No subject. Mr. Kane, you don't know me, but I was at the wedding. There's more to the Crawfords than you think. Check Richard's business dealings, 2018 offshore accounts. Fiona knew something. Be careful. My pulse quickened. Fiona knew something. I opened the metal box, pulled out the cryptic note from her hospital bag. The truth is in the numbers. My old chemist instincts stirred the ones that once decoded hidden patterns. What had Fiona known, and why was it surfacing now? I called Pandora, read her the email. She was silent for a moment, then said, Fiona always suspected Diane was hiding something. She never trusted her, even back when we were all at the hospital together. Said Richard's money didn't add up. I frowned. Why didn't she tell me? She didn't want to burden you, Walter. You were grieving, but she left that note, didn't she? I looked at the letter in the box, still unopened. I haven't read it yet, I admitted. Pandora's voice softened. Maybe it's time. I didn't open it that night. Instead, I searched online for Richard Crawford 2018 offshore accounts. Nothing concrete surfaced, just whispers on obscure financial forums about Crawford Properties' rapid expansion, rumors of untraceable funds. My past life as a chemist for a shadowy firm taught me how to spot patterns others missed, but this was a puzzle I wasn't ready to solve. Not yet. The viral storm grew BuzzFeed, Reddit, local news, but it felt distant compared to the mystery in my hands. Fiona's letter, the anonymous email, the note in her hospital bag, they were pieces of something larger, something she'd left for me to uncover. By week's end, Ethan called again, leaving a voicemail from another number. Dad. Victoria moved out. She's furious at me, not her parents. Her dad called my lies fraud. They're talking prenup enforcement. She wants counseling. I said yes. I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. Please call back. I didn't. The scholarship fund reached $35,000, my monthly $200 contributions, a quiet tribute to Fiona. The public saw me as a hero, a teacher who stood up to disrespect. But I didn't feel heroic. I felt like a man waking from a long sleep, holding a letter I was afraid to open, and a truth I was only beginning to see. It was November 3rd, 2024, 2 weeks after I walked out of the Grand Ashton Hotel's ballroom, leaving behind a shattered wedding and a truth that burned brighter than the chandeliers. I'm Walter Kane, a 56-year-old chemistry teacher who'd spent $16,750 of my late wife Fiona's life insurance on my son Ethan's wedding, only to be called an embarrassment in front of 220 guests. I'd canceled his $30,000 Maldives honeymoon, withdrawn a $125,000 gift, and exposed his lies to the world. The viral video, 4.2 million views on Twitter, 2.4 million on TikTok, had turned me into a reluctant hero, a teacher who stood up to disrespect. But heroism felt hollow. What I wanted was peace and a way to honor Fiona, whose unopened letters still sat in the locked metal box on my coffee table, whispering secrets I wasn't ready to face. The fallout had been relentless. Ethan's marriage to Victoria Crawford was crumbling under the weight of his lies. $60,000 of Fiona's money spent on the wedding, a $14,800 wedding band, $11,950 for the photographer, all claimed as his own. Victoria had moved out living with her parents, the Crawfords, whose real estate empire and junior league prestige couldn't shield them from Charlotte's gossip. The anonymous email I'd received on October 25th hinting at Richard Crawford's shady 2018 offshore accounts and Fiona's knowledge of something lingered like a shadow. And that cryptic note in Fiona's hospital bag. The truth is in the numbers felt like a puzzle I was meant to solve. My old life as a chemist for a shadowy firm decoding hidden patterns stirred in me, urging me to look closer. But first, I needed to rebuild. On November 4th, I sat at the scratched, laminate kitchen table in the house Fiona and I bought in 1997, a new folder open on my laptop, Fiona Kane Memorial Fund. The $30,209, $80. Honeymoon refund and $5,000 from my savings, seeded it totaling $35, eating cigar and 80. Purpose a scholarship for single parents pursuing college, starting with one $5,000 award next fall. Fiona, a night shift nurse for 20 years, had sacrificed everything for Ethan and me. This was her legacy, not a wedding that erased her. I typed the mission statement in memory of Fiona Kane, who believed education changes lives. My monthly $200 contributions would grow, it a quiet rebellion against the Crawfords' world of flash and lies. At 8:30 a.m., I drove to school, the metal box in my car, Fiona's letter inside it like a pulse. My students didn't know about the video, but the staff did. In the break room, Jennifer Hayes, the English teacher, slid a coffee across the table. "Walter, you're trending again." I frowned, checking Twitter. A new thread on r/uplifting news, teacher dad starts scholarship after wedding drama, had 6,400 upvotes. Comments praise the fund. This is how you honor someone's memory. Fiona sounds like she was amazing. A few mentioned Ethan hoped the son learns from this. I closed the app uneasy. The scholarship wasn't for clout, it was for Fiona. That afternoon, Pandora, Fiona's best friend, came over, her caramel latte steaming as she sat across from me. "You're doing it, Walter," she said, her eyes soft but sharp. Fiona's smiling somewhere. I nodded, my gaze drifting to the metal box on the coffee table. Pandora followed my look. "You still haven't opened it, have you?" I shook my head. "I'm not ready." She leaned forward, her voice low. "That email you got about the Crawfords." I dug around. Fiona was right. Diane mentioned something to her in 2018 at the hospital about Richard's business. Fiona didn't trust it, said their money moved too fast, too clean. I frowned, my chemist's instincts kicking in. "What did she know?" Pandora shrugged. "She didn't tell me details, just that she'd found something in Richard's paperwork when she was helping with a charity event. Numbers that didn't add up. She wanted to protect you and Ethan." I thought of the note. The truth is in the numbers. Did she leave anything else, I asked. Pandora hesitated. "Just a feeling." She said if anything happened to her, you'd know what to do. That night I sat alone, the house quiet, except for the refrigerator's hum. I opened the metal box, my hands steady, but my heart racing. The patents from my old life formulas for compounds that could obscure or reveal sat beside Fiona's letter and the cryptic note. I picked up the note, its edges worn. The truth is in the numbers. Then I lifted the letter, Fiona's handwriting looping across the envelope. I broke the seal, my breath catching. Her words written in blue ink spilled out, "Walter. My love, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't fight harder. You've always been my balance, my equation. You're stronger than you know, but you let people walk over you. Don't. Ethan's young, he'll make mistakes, but don't let him forget who we are." I found something about Richard Crawford, 2018, his company's tax filings. Offshore accounts, hidden transfers. I didn't tell you because you were caring enough. If you need answers, look at his 2018 990 forms, the charity side. The numbers don't lie. You'll know what to do. I love you. Always. Fiona, I read it 3 times, my hands trembling. Fiona had known something about Richard, something big enough to hide in a letter she knew I might not open for years. I opened my laptop, searched for Crawford Properties, 2018, 990 forms. Public charity filings were online, and after 20 minutes, I found it Crawford Foundation 2018, $2.3 million in donations, but $1.8 million funneled to a Cayman Islands account labeled consulting services. No consultant named, no services detailed. My old life taught me to spot shell games, money moving to hide something. Fiona had seen it too. I didn't act yet. Instead, I emailed Harold Bennett, my attorney, need you to look into Crawford Foundation 2018 990s. Possible irregularities. Discreetly, he replied within an hour. On it, I'll pull records tomorrow. Stay safe, Walter. The spark from my past life flared, decoding patterns, uncovering truths. But this wasn't just about the Crawfords. It was about Fiona, about finishing what she started. On November 6th, Ethan showed up at my house unannounced at 7:15 p.m. I opened the door. His face, haggard eyes red. Dad, can we talk? I stepped aside, letting him in. He sat on the couch, the metal box visible on the coffee table. Victoria's staying with her parents. She's talking about an annulment. I screwed up. His voice broke. I lied to her, to you, about the money. I just wanted to fit in with them. I sat across from him, my voice calm. You spent your mother's money, Ethan. $61,000 for a house going on a wedding. You let them erase her. You called me an embarrassment. He flinched, tears falling. I know, I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would hurt you like this. I leaned forward, my eyes steady. It wasn't just me, it was Fiona. You erased her memory to impress people who don't care about you. He nodded, wiping his face. I'm in therapy. Started last week. I told Victoria everything, the debt, the BMW lease, the money. She's furious, but she's willing to try counseling. I want to fix this, Dad, with you too. I studied him. The boy I'd raised alone for 5 years now, a man facing his choices. I'm glad you're trying, I said. But trust is earned, not given. Here's what I need. I handed him a list written that morning. No financial requests ever. Call once a week, Sunday, 7:00 p.m. Meet in person, monthly, neutral ground coffee shop. Publicly acknowledge your lies about the wedding, money, Victoria, her family, your workplace. Honor your mother's memory in your actions, not just words. He read it, nodding slowly. I can do this. I will. I didn't smile, didn't soften. Words aren't enough, Ethan. Show me. He stood hesitating. Can I hug you? I nodded, and he wrapped his arms around me, his grip tight but fragile. I'm sorry, Dad. I hugged back, brief but real. Prove it, I said. He left the door, closing softly. The next day, November 7th, Harold called. Walter, the 990s are a mess. The Crawfords Foundation moved $1.8 million offshore in 2018. No clear recipient. I've got a contact at the IRS who can dig deeper, but it's risky. If this is fraud, it could be big. What do you want to do? I thought of Fiona's letter, her warning. Send it to your contact, I said. Anonymously, let the truth come out on its own. He agreed, promising updates. I didn't want revenge, just justice for Fiona. By November 10th, the Fiona Kane Memorial Fund reached $40,000, boosted by $4,783.20 in online donations after the viral video. A local news segment on WCNC, Charlotte aired Teacher Scholarship Honors Late Wife After Viral Wedding Moment. The reporter interviewed me at school, my classroom's periodic table in the background. This is for Fiona, I said. She believed in second chances in education and people like her, single parents who keep going. Comments online were overwhelming. This man's a legend. Fiona's legacy lives on. The son doesn't deserve him. Victoria emailed again November 12th. Mr. Kane, Ethan's trying. He told me about the therapy, the debt, everything. I'm still hurt, but I want to make this work. Can we meet someday? I want to understand Fiona, who she was. I replied, I'd like that, Victoria. Let me know when you're ready. I included a photo of Fiona from 1994, her wedding dress glowing, her smile alive. Victoria wrote back, she was beautiful. Thank you. On November 15th, Ethan posted on LinkedIn a public apology. I made mistakes. I lied about money for my wedding money that came from my mother's life insurance and my father's sacrifices. I hurt people I love. I'm in therapy working to be better. I'm sorry, Dad, Victoria, everyone. It had 200 likes, 400 comments, mostly supportive. Takes guts to admit this. You can rebuild. A few were harsh. Too late, man. I didn't comment, but I saw it. He was trying. The IRS investigation into the Crawfords began quietly. Harold's contact confirming receipt on November 18th. No charges yet, but whispers in Charlotte's business circles grew, clients asking. Richard pointed questions, Diane stepping back from junior league events. Their empire held, but cracks showed. I didn't follow it closely. Fiona's truth was out there, and that was enough. By December 1st, I sat at my kitchen table, the scholarship fund, at $42,000. I taught my classes, graded papers, lived my life. Ethan called every Sunday, 7 p.m. as promised. Our first coffee meeting was scheduled for December 8th at Emily's coffee shop. Victoria joined therapy with him, their marriage fragile but fighting. I felt no triumph. Only peace. The metal box sat on my shelf now. Fiona's letter beside her photo read and understood. I hadn't solved every puzzle, Richard's secrets, Fiona's suspicions, but I'd solved the one that mattered in my own worth. I looked at Fiona's picture, her smile steady. I kept my promise, I said. The house was quiet, but it didn't feel empty anymore. I was Walter Kane, a teacher, a widower, a man who'd once decoded secrets and now taught truths. And for the first time in years, I was enough.